Here it is, that time once again to get your week off to the best start possible with a brand new edition of Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, 1270 AM Charlotte. We're also streaming at carolinacatholicradio.org and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. We're also broadcasting across the Radio Maria network, so welcome to our Radio Maria listeners. Thanks for tuning in for a brand new edition of Faith and Sport today. I'm Chris, the producer of the show, and as always, the host of Faith and Sport. Here he is, Dr. John Acquaviva.
Hey folks, welcome to the show, however, wherever, and whenever you're listening to us. This is Faith in Sport, where we apply our faith to all aspects of sports, whether you're a referee, a parent, a parent of an athlete, a grandparent of an athlete, or administrator involved in sport in any way. This is the show for you. Thank you for joining us today here on Carolina Catholic Radio and Radio Maria. And folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to discuss all things sports, including our hit and miss with Ed Billick. I'm going to introduce him in a minute. We're going to do our weekend headlines. And our guest today is Tom VanBuskirk. Say that quickly several times. The co-founder and executive director of Positive Coaching. We're going to do the quick Q&A with Dr. A. And as always, we're going to do our PGA Golfer of the Week. I shouldn't say as always, but for about the past month, we've been doing the PGA Golfer of the Week, and nobody is more excited about the PGA Golfer of the Week than Chris. Chris, are you excited? Who's going to be the PGA Golfer of the Week again?
Yeah.
Folks, thank you for joining us today. Hey, listen, if you need to contact me, there's a couple ways in which you can do it. One of them is you can email me at faithandsport@wingate.edu, or you can tweet me at j.aquaviva1. Now, if that all eluded you, just go to our webpage, carolinacatholicradio.org, and you'll see a banner for Faith and Sports Show, and they have some information on how to get a hold of me. But sitting right next to me, as he does just about once a month, is Ed Billick, WBT sports guy and other shows there, and he's been in radio for several years. But he's sitting beside me today to do the show Faith and Sport. Ed, how you doing, brother?
It's always wonderful. It's wonderful, John, to be with you and Chris. You guys do such good work here. Do good Lord's work on Carolina Catholic Radio.
We try to do that, brother. We're just trying to bring faith, character, and morality weave it into the world of sport.
And you guys have fun doing it.
I think this is
right.
great. This is a true blessing to be able to do this, brother. Each and every week we do this, and we are so pleased that Radio Maria has picked up this show, so we're spreading the word. In fact, I've mentioned this before, but it's worth talking about this again. I think we're the only ones that do a show like this. There are other shows they try to weave faith and sport together, but the premise of their show is to talk to people that are involved in sport and that are faithful people. So they talk to coaches, former players, current players, referees, whatever the case is, and how they bring their faith into their sport that they're playing. And it's primarily interview shows where we do interviews just about every week on this show. But I think what strengthens our show is that we talk about sport, but we weave Christian teaching into that. So like I mentioned, character, morality, and ethics into that conversation. I'm happy to bring it to the folks.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good stuff. What are we talking about today?
Well, brother, we're going to do our hit and miss of the week. But the first thing I want to do before we get started is last week we were talking about justice. And I don't think
Dave Justice used to play for the Braves?
Well, yeah,
One of my favorite guys.
That's right. He's one of your favorite guys. We're actually not talking about a person here. We're talking about the characteristic or the trait of justice. In fact, some people would call this probably a virtue of some sort. But what I mentioned last week was the famous saying, or at least he was given credit for it. I don't think he was the one who said it, came from Pope Paul VI. And I mentioned on last week's show that the person that was credited for was Pius VI. It was Pope Paul VI.
Oh, I stand for a little correction here.
I stand for a little correction. Brother, remember a couple weeks ago, in fact, it was the last time you were here, I was mentioning where my son Luke and my daughter Claire play softball and baseball respectively.
Yeah.
There was these little signs out there.
I love them, yeah.
I saw a new one last week. Here's the new one.
This is at a field in Matthews, North Carolina,
That's right.
Where they play sports.
Yeah, it's called Mara. It's this huge, numerous acre. I think it's like, 35 acres or something. There's, I think, 14 different baseball, softball, lacrosse, and football fields there.
Okay.
Amazing. And they have these little signs, kind of like similar to the ones that you'd put in your front yard during an election or something. And they have these signs throughout just reminding people to put things in perspective at these youth sport events. And this one I saw the other day says, only 2% of student athletes earn a scholarship. So if you want money, hit the books. I thought that was great.
Yeah, you're talking to the 98%.
Well, brother, there's so many people that go there, and a lot of these signs almost are like poking fun at these people, right? And at the people that take this so serious. And, of course, to a degree, they're, I think, making fun of the referees and some of the coaches, the athletes themselves, because this is often a do-or-die feel-like situation, and we're not putting in perspective. And one of the reasons I'm bringing Tom VanBuskirk on is because he saw the need literally decades ago for positive coaching and to bring perspective into the world of sport. And he's going to join us in the second half of the show to talk about just that, why he and his wife founded Positive Coaching. By the way, from now in between he comes on in about 20, 25 minutes, check out his website and what he started at positivecoaching.org. Now, Ed, before you and I get into our conversation, including our hit and miss and further things along the world of sport, I want to mention that this show is now supported by Carolina Crawl Space Pros. Living here in the Carolinas, we have a high level of humidity, and many times a high humidity level in the crawl space can cause your beautiful hardwood floors to buckle. So take control of the situation. The owner there is Jeff Wolf. Contact him and his guys at Carolina Crawl Space Pros. They can come out for a free estimate. And then for website and contact info, go to my page on Carolina Catholic Radio, and you'll see how you can earn a little more money off of the job that Jeff Wolf and the guys do at Carolina Crawl Space Pros. So check those guys out. I know Jeff. I trust Jeff. And be sure to go to the website, see how you can save money if you bring him out for a job. Brother, usually we talk about our hit and miss in the world of sport. As usual, you go first. You sent this to me in the last 24 hours. I had a chance to read it. Tell the folks what it's about.
Well, it came from, and I'm not going to take credit for it, but he gave us, he highlighted it, and it was part of his homily at yesterday's 9 o'clock Mass, Father Peter.
Awesome.
And
it's St. Matthew Catholic Church.
St. Matthew Catholic Mass here in Charlotte, the church. Yep. Ellie Kingman. He's an 18-year-old baseball player. He has pitched no-hitters. He's done extremely well. He goes to Cimarron Memorial High School in Las Vegas, Nevada, and he is an Orthodox Jew.
Got it.
He's also what's called a Shomer Shabbat, and that means he observes the strict rules of the Jewish Sabbath, and he cannot and he will not play ball from Friday night until Saturday night. So any games Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, even Saturday evening, he will not play.
Interesting.
And it was so appropriate because now through the diocese, the disposition on attending Sunday Mass, making it an obligation, which that's another whole thing. We shouldn't have to be obligated to do something we love. It should be an increased desire, but that's another subject. But this young man who has a promising future Major League Baseball career will not play. And he says he's not doing it as a sacrifice. I'm doing it because of my commitment to God. And he's getting a lot of attention. The New York Times wrote an article. Again, his name is Ellie Klingman. Look it up. You can read the whole article. I got it right here in front of me. But for him, it's non-negotiable. As much as he loves baseball, he will not forsake his religious beliefs, even if he could eventually thwart everything he's been working towards. There's a way around the conflict. It largely depends on whether he's good enough. And it says to me that that's what's most important. And he has a potential to be a Major League Baseball player.
Now, I know that there's the potential there to be a Major League Baseball player, and hopefully for this young man, it comes to fruition. However, tell me this. If he made it to the major leagues and skipped any games between Friday night and Sunday night, would he be the first person in history to do that?
Well, it's first Friday night to Saturday night, so he would have to sit out the Saturday day game or the Saturday evening
When they say
game.
Friday night, could you play in a Friday night evening game?
If it started before midnight.
Oh, okay, there you go.
That's the Jewish Sabbath.
Got it. Now, he's not the first person to do this.
No,
though, right?
and if you go back into the 60s, Sandy Koufax, a devout Jew, there was a playoff or World Series game where he says, I am not pitching. So they put Don Drysdale in, and for you old schoolers, Don got his butt kicked.
So in that particular game in which he stood in for Sandy Koufax.
And the manager said, I'm glad all my players aren't Jewish, but the whole...
Did he say that?
Yeah, but no, it was game one of the 1965 World Series. That was Walter Austin, the manager, and Don Drysdale got shelled. But the point being is, what's important in life?
That's right.
What's successful in life? If you honor what the Lord wants you to do and you're committed to that, then everything else, because if in fact if God provides, he will provide.
Yep.
And if you provide, he will provide. So I think this is a great story. We're going to be following
It's your
it here.
hit.
Yeah, it's my hit. Ellie Klingman, Leelikligman. Look it up. It was an article in the New York Times.
You know, his father has an interesting take on this because right now he's a standout pitcher, but his dad has kind of, he's kind of noted that the way he's probably going to make it to the major leagues is as a catcher, if he's going to make it to the major leagues. And his dad points out something interesting in the article, that every catcher, more than any other field player, needs a day off or two. And he said, why not make it the day? Why not make it the day of the Sabbath? Play him Monday through Friday, and then just sit him out on Saturday's game, and then you can replay him starting again on Sunday. Now the thing is his dad is speaking as if this is going to happen. There is very little chance that any high schooler even sees the double or triple A, let alone make it to the major leagues. But I'm cheering for this guy already, because I think he would be a great witness to anybody of faith, not just the Jewish faith, but anybody.
And that was Father Peter's message yesterday. Yeah. So hats off to him over at St. Matthew.
Very good. Folks, you're listening to Faith and Sport. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva, joined in studio this week by Ed Billick. You're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio. It's a co-production of Radio Maria and Faith and Sport, where we look at sport through a Catholic lens. My hit is something that is going to take a little bit of explaining, because it's going to sound like a miss to begin with. Okay, let me talk about first the data that I've mentioned on this show before that's crystal clear when it comes to parental involvement as a fan in Little League or any type of youth sport. And that is, researchers, people like me who have PhDs in sport management and related degrees, have done a lot of research on this, Ed. And one of the things that they've been after is, does the presence of mom and dad or family members there put more pressure on the kid? Further, does the mom and dad saying something, like, for instance, prior to the at-bat, prior to the snap, prior to the floor event in gymnastics, whatever the case is, does that make them nervous? And you're nodding here because I think even instinctively, or you remember what I've talked about. And the answer is unequivocally yes. This is a strong statement made by the researchers, and it's been done numerous times to the point I don't even think this has to be repeated in research.
When my son was playing hockey,
yeah,
and I was a coach or assistant coach, he's always looking at the stands, looking at his mom, how he's performing.
Yeah.
And I think about Little League. When I played, my parents weren't there. There were no parents really out there.
Yeah.
It was like minor leagues. We were out there playing for each other, and we didn't want to let our team down. Here, I never thought of it like that. As you said that, they don't want to let their parents down.
No.
And their words of encouragement or disencouragement could really mess with them.
Well, the interesting thing is discouraging comments and negative comments probably have such impact that it can't even be measured. In other words, son, I can't believe you did that. You should have done better on that. Come on, daughter. That was awful. And I've seen parents, just yesterday, Claire had a game, and a parent called out his daughter at third base. She couldn't have got to the ball, Ed. It's a hard hit ball into the hole. And when there was a moment of silence, literally, the father yelled, "Come on, you can get that ball." And all that's going to do is put more pressure on her.
I don't think that helps then. And where is this from? A study you were reading?
There's been several studies that have been reported that show that the emotion is driven up on the part of the individual, and ultimately the child feels a lot more pressure, and they feel the need to succeed at a higher level than they have. And it ultimately and usually leads to lesser of a performance.
So if you're giving some advice here on Faith and Sport, would you say to these parents, should you ask your child, do you want me to be there?
Yeah, that is something that's interesting. I want to get back to that, but let me talk about why this is a hit, because ultimately my son Luke had a baseball game a few days ago.
I love how you're bringing your family in on
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And it really cemented the data on parental involvement in particular comments that parents make. Okay, so Luke had an at-bat.
And how old is he?
Luke is 9. And this was a playoff game, so it's win or go home, right? So the end of the season, literally, if they lose. And they're slugging it out. In fact, Luke's team is the Royals, and they're slugging it out with the Yankees. And the score after a couple innings is 2-2. Luke gets up. The bases are loaded. He strikes out looking on 3 pitches, right? 2 of the balls could have been called balls, but still they're close enough. The umpire rung them up. Boom, strikeout. Everybody, including his coaches, were disappointed. Thankfully, nobody said anything to Luke. There's a lot of pressure on these kids to begin with.
9 years already.
Old. 9 years old. So I couldn't help it. I just wanted to help, as they say. So Luke is not going to bat for a few batters, and I walk near his bench, and he makes eye contact with me, so I wave him over. And I just said something simple, and I said, Luke, listen, the next time you get up, try not to go down swinging. Just swing, even if it's close. If you're not quite sure, just swing at it. You'd rather kind of go down swinging than
getting called out.
Yeah, than getting called out on strikes, especially 3 straight pitches. And he said something like, yeah, but 2 of those weren't strikes. And I said, I know, they were close, but just got to swing at it. Now, Ed, he's not the greatest hitter. He's not the best baseball player, but he's made so much improvement from ages 7 all the way up to 9 that I should just let him go, right? I'm so proud of him on all the improvements that he's made in the game. Now, Ed, just to be clear, when he swings, he has a good natural swing. He takes a short step, he opens up his hips, and he swings, and his arms go through, and it's fantastic, right? It's good to watch him because he's come so far and just in his swing in the last year. Ed, the very next time he went up. Now, remember, you're supposed to turn your hips, right, to help rotate the bat around, and just a little bit of your wrists should help bring it through the box. He stood there flat-footed and basically used his wrist to go through the strike zone on all 3 pitches. They were bad swings, right? And of course, after the very first swing, I put my palm to my forehead and I went, oh my gosh, the very thing that I know parents shouldn't do, I did, and it came to fruition. He felt so much pressure, he couldn't even swing the bat normally. Needless to say, with the game again tied, this time at 5-5, he struck out on 3 straight pitches on 3 awful swings. And it just cemented the whole thing about don't say anything. Now, it would be interesting. Now, let's come back to your point. By the way, folks, this is Dr. John Acquaviva. I'm in studio with Ed Billick. He's a periodic co-host here. This is Faith in Sport. So you're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio. It's a co-production of Radio Maria. And Ed and I are talking about our hit or miss in the world of sport. We're talking about my son in particular. I made comments to him in between innings. And it
did not help. It worsened the situation.
Yeah, it did. And so many parents want to help. And whatever they're saying, they clearly want to help. And in this case, it was so crystal clear to me, Ed, it did not help. Now, the question you asked a minute ago was, should we even come? And should we pose this question to our son or daughter? Do you want me to come? I think they would often, in fact, inevitably say yes. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, only because I think in their hearts they would know they'd want you to be there, or they want to show off for you. But sometimes not being there may help.
It may help. Like, for instance, if you couldn't make it, or be interesting kind of study to find out how would a kid do, if you randomly selected days and you couldn't show up and then keep stats on, say, through 20 games.
But success and criteria is like, work came first. I never attended my kids' games. And, it's like a responsibility to be there for them. Gosh, this is a great discussion.
No, it's really interesting. And again, what's interesting, if you go to a Little League game, you probably haven't been to one in a while, but of course, I live at this ballpark. Literally, we're there just about every day. I shouldn't say that. 3 or 4 days a week we're there. But we've done our share of soccer and tennis and baseball and softball and so forth. And thankfully, about half of the parents don't say anything. They either instinctively know this or they've actually read the research on this. Because people like the New York Times and other major papers, they've picked up this information because it's for the everyday listener. It's for the everyday reader, right? This information. You can say something after the play is over. If your son does poorly or well, it's okay to say something afterwards. But the research shows that it increases the pressure if you say something prior to them coming up to perform. Whether it's serving a ball in tennis, taking a snap in football, or at the plate in baseball, they feel more pressure if mom and dad say something. Now, the interesting thing is if you're Ed Billick and you're a friend of mine, he probably wouldn't feel near the pressure, and it's possible he wouldn't feel pressure at all, even though he knows that you know me. You could be sitting right next to me, but if he hears it from mom or dad, son or daughter tends to feel a lot more pressure. Now, my guess is that it's not 100%. In fact, I know it's not 100%. And there may be some kids that get energy from that. But the research is crystal clear. Almost all players say it increases the need to do well.
The most fun I had as a child, and I didn't play organized sports, a couple of years, Little League Baseball, was when we'd go down to Elks Park, play basketball, go up to Rocky Stadium, we called it, and we played a game of baseball just with us guys.
Yeah.
And that was the most fun we had. And memories, playing touch football and Dragon's Yard, all those kind of things just bring back strong memories. It'd be interesting if you take some college students who play games like that and do a class on this. And what's their reaction? What's their feedback to you years later? Now they're mature and they can see it through adults' eyes. You got to ask some of your students.
Yeah, that is interesting. It'd be neat to ask them after the fact. And of course, all these studies, they'll take these kids while they're 8, 9, 10 years old and say, "How do you feel?" And there's pages and pages.
Well, you're going to play in front of 40,000 kids, fans someday. We got to get you ready. 2% only make it to the majors.
Remember, folks, only 2% of student athletes earn a scholarship. So if you want money, hit the books. There you go.
That's a good one. Good discussion there, John.
Folks, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Faith in Sport. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. I teach exercise science down the road at Wingate University. I teach anatomy and physiology. I teach exercise physiology. I teach strength and conditioning and so forth.
You got the summer off now.
Well, I do have
finals are over.
Kind of. Finals just ended last week. I have 3 weeks off, and then I start teaching summer school in June.
There you go.
Yeah, and then I have internships all the summer and so forth. So I'll be somewhat busy, but I'm off from my regular schedule.
I'm just throwing it.
No worries. You're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio, a co-production of Radio Maria. Listen, folks, after the break, Tom VanBuskirk, the co-founder and executive director of Positive Coaching, is going to join us. And I think he is a great guest for this reason, and I've mentioned this numerous times. There are people out there doing what we talk about on this show, and Tom and his wife have been trying to make the experience in youth sport better for decades. We're going to bring him on, and he's going to talk to us about how positivecoaching.org does that very thing. Now, Ed, I'm going to get a little more serious before we go to our weekend headlines. I think this is worth noting, and it was as they say, it was a thorn in my claw over the last couple of weeks. Were you familiar with this? Where the 2 weeks ago, the draft picks happened in the NFL, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and for weeks, literally for weeks, there was all this, projections on who's going to go where and so forth. And Justin Fields, the great quarterback for Ohio State, took the Ohio State Buckeyes to the final game against Alabama and so forth. He's a quarterback. And the projections were that he was going to drop a few days before the draft.
I remember all that, sure.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And ESPN's Max Kellerman, along with a writer at ESPN and a few other people, were claiming it was racism on why he was dropping. And this was confusing for a couple
Okay, let's define that word.
Yeah.
He's dropping because we don't like blacks. Who's we?
I know. That's what made this so strange. For this reason,
I don't understand some of that kind of comment, but
of the first 14 picks, 12 of them were not white. In fact, 12 of those 12 picks, 11 of them were black.
And guess what?
What?
That's news to me because I don't even look at that.
I know.
I don't think America looks at that.
Brother, the only reason I looked at it was because of these comments.
Okay, continue your thought there.
Okay, here's my point, though, on this. Okay, so if he's claiming that it's racism or some type of prejudice feeling against this player, Justin Fields, that means he, in essence, is calling out those particular organizations. So, for instance, the 49ers picked third, the Falcons picked fourth, the Bengals picked fifth, and so forth. So there was only a couple that were from picks 3 to picks 10, which he was projected to go. So he's basically saying, he's limiting his comments to one of these organizations, or all of them are racial.
And his opinion counts. Because everyone's opinion counts.
Well, his opinion counts for this reason. He's got a lot of listeners. This guy's a big talking head, and he says a lot of things, and I think people respect people with a microphone in front of him, especially when he has pretty good insight, more insight than most people that are listening to him. So I think they, quote, believe him. Brother, this is not a small thing, but unfortunately it's dismissed. And as I mentioned last week, and I think it's a comment or a saying worth repeating, that it's really scary to yell fire even though there's not even any smoke. I mean, that's why you get arrested if you yell fire within a crowded place.
Right.
And here he is yelling this, and it's just Max
stoking fears. That's all.
Yeah, Max, we don't need people stoking this fire. We don't need these writers from ESPN and these other people saying this, because the irony was the very person that got selected ahead of him, and virtually all the people that got selected ahead of him, were black themselves. Yeah. There is no collusion here. There's no evidence.
So that's news.
Sure.
There's no news there.
There's
not a news story.
Brutal. All right, brother. Listen, Chris, we're going to go to break here in a second. But listen, right now, let's do weekend headlines and tell the people what's going on in the world of sport.
There's some good stuff, folks.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition.
It's time for Weekend Headlines with Dr. John Acquaviva.
And are you having a good time today, brother?
Faith and sports.
Keith Jackson's going defeat. We're putting up our feet up in the air. Defeat.
Whoa, Nella, Keith Jackson along with Ed Billick here at ABC's College Football Studios.
See that? He has a future in his second career after he's done in the education. He could do voices.
Trust me, I would do more of Keith Jackson's voice if people actually knew who he was. People
or
totally
if
forgot.
they would call in and say, keep doing more here
That's
on
right.
Faith and Sport.
Folks, here's what's going on in the world of sport. In the PGA, South Korea's K.H. Lee won the weekend's Byron Nelson Classic with a score of 25 under par. Amazing. The second of the season majors is this weekend, the PGA Championship, to be held in Kiowa Island. Where is Kiowa Island,
Down
brother?
south of us here.
South Carolina, brother.
South Carolina.
The Preakness Stakes, long shot Rombauer wins the second leg of the Triple Crown. Co-favorite Medina Spirit, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, finished in third place. Next up is the Belmont in 3 weeks. In the NHL, the playoffs are underway, but it's early. First-round matchups have at most 2 games played. Ed's Penguins are battling the New York Islanders, while my Red Wings are battling COVID at home. Major League Baseball, the league has completed a quarter of its games.
Already?
I know, it's amazing. Wow. And surprises include first-place teams, the Boston Red Sox in the AL East, and the San Francisco Giants in the NL West. And by the way, slugger Mike Trout ended a 0-for-18 slump yesterday. I never knew he was capable of going hitless for that long. And by the way, it's just been 3 weeks since the Bushy McBush NASCAR race was held.
That's right. And also, by the way, go Braves.
There you go. Go Braves. So there you have it, folks. In fact, right after the break, Ed and I are going to talk about more on the NHL playoffs and then who our picks are.
Hey, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it, buddy.
He shoots and scores.
So there you have it. Sports news that may or may not change your life.
Awesome, baby.
Folks, stay tuned. Right after this, we're going to have Tom VanBuskirk, co-founder, executive director of Positive Coaching. Stay tuned, people.
You are listening to Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, 1270 AM Charlotte. We're also broadcasting across the Radio Maria Network and streaming at carolinacatholicradio.org and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. And if you can't get enough Faith and Sport, make sure you check out carolinacatholicradio.org or Carolina Catholic Radio on the app. For all of our encore presentation times, listen to Faith and Sport throughout the week. Also, check out Faith and Sport on demand at the Faith and Sport archive on Carolina Catholic Radio. More after the break.
Carolina Catholic Radio provides a Catholic perspective to news and current events, otherwise being censored or canceled in secular media. Catch the spirit. Show your support. Get involved. Contact us through our website at carolinacatholicradio.org.
This is Frank Trotta with breaking news from Carolina Catholic Radio. Patrick Winslow, Vicar General and Chancellor of the Diocese of Charlotte, issued a directive to all parishes that parish activities are to return to normal operation. That means religious services no longer require social distancing or face coverings. Those who remain vulnerable are advised to continue wearing masks or attend Mass virtually. Masses and confessions have returned to their pre-COVID schedule beginning on Pentecost Sunday. The option of receiving communion from the chalice and extending the sign of peace are to remain omitted until further notice. The faithful retain the right to receive communion on the tongue or on the hands. Beginning on Pentecost, Sunday, May 23rd, the general dispensation for attending Mass on Sundays and holy days of obligations will be narrowed to include only those who remain vulnerable to the coronavirus. Stay tuned to your Carolina Catholic radio station for further details. For Carolina Catholic Radio, this is Frank Trotta.
Teachers that care, professors that care about you. Just an awesome experience all around.
There's peace here. There's encouragement here.
Faculty, everybody that works here, they really set you up for success.
I don't think I have ever felt as loved and as supported and as encouraged as I have at the Abbey.
There's something here that's underlying and intrinsic. There's like a spirit of love and community. And I think the spirit is God's presence here.
Belmont Abbey College, a world away, but close to home. Visit us at belmontabbeycollege.edu.
Hello, Carolina Catholics. This is Dr. Gregory Popchak from EWTN's More to Life. Our faith is God's greatest gift to us and a priceless treasure. But faith doesn't spare us from the challenges of life. I know from over 20 years of practice that most families face one or more serious issues: addiction, anxiety, depression, marriage problems, divorce. If you're struggling with these or similar issues, there's hope. The Catholic counselors at my Pastoral Solutions Institute are here to help. Visit us today at CatholicCounselors.com or call 866-724-1196 and let your journey to healing begin. That's 866-724-1196 or visit us at CatholicCounselors.com. This is Dr. Greg Popchak with EWTN's More to Life here on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network.
Carolina Catholic Radio is here to encourage Catholics to learn, love, and live their faith. We're here to go into the breach when the active parishioner leaves the pew, when the inactive or fallen away Catholic needs reminding, and when a Christian is searching for answers only found in the church that Jesus Christ started with his apostles over 2,000 years ago. Please consider making a one-time donation or monthly pledge today. For more information, contact us through our website at carolinacatholicradio.org.
And we are back with more Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, 1270 AM Charlotte. We're also broadcasting across the Radio Maria Radio Network. So thank you once again to our Radio Maria listeners for tuning in to Faith and Sport today. We're also streaming at carolinacatholicradio.org and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. And once again, here he is, the host of Faith and Sport, Dr. John Acquaviva, along with our special guest host, Ed Billick.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Chris. Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Faith and Sport, where we merge sport and virtue. Thank you for joining us on the show today. This is awesome. Ed and I feel, Carlson, when he's sitting in that special guest seat, we all feel blessed to have this opportunity to have a microphone in front of us and talk about faith and sport. We want to thank Carolina Catholic Radio. We want to thank Radio Maria. Thank all the board members of Carolina Catholic Radio that work so hard to bring Carolina Catholic Radio to these airwaves in this area. We are so appreciative of all the folks that make this work.
That's right. So we want to invite all of our listeners out there that can do it to go to carolinacatholicradio.org and hit that donate button.
That's right. We need those funds, folks. That's the only way this station keeps going. I think a lot of people think it's out of the goodness of our heart, but all the goodness can't, for instance, pay the bills to the people that own this studio, right? So we need to fork some money over. So any efforts along those lines would be appreciated. Listen, folks, Tom VanBuskirk, the co-founder and executive director of Positive Coaching, he's going to be on with us in a minute. And as you're listening to this discussion with him, go to your internet and then pop up positivecoaching.org, so you can see a little bit more about this, put a name to the face of Tom and so forth. We're going to have a really good conversation with him, and I'm really happy that I came across his name in that organization because he is doing, again, what we talk about. Now, before we bring him on, Ed, there was a couple other things I wanted to mention. First of all, have you ever heard of Bear Wozniak?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
yeah,
EWTN personality. Chris had a chance to meet him. You had a chance to meet him.
Yeah, he was at the Men's Catholic Conference here in Charlotte.
Yeah, that's
I got
right.
an autographed copy of his book.
That's right.
Deep
Chris,
Adventure.
Chris, you guys, I was on his show the other day. He had me on for a full hour. Yep. In fact, his show airs on these EWTN airwaves every Saturday. And he asked me about the transgender, females in sport issue in middle school and high school and college and so forth. We talked about how and why it's important to be in shape and what diet has to do with overall health and so forth. Had a really good conversation with him. I was really excited to be on that program. By the way, he has so many guests. That guy is so busy. He said it probably won't air until August. Wow. But still, I know that, and that's awesome. Still, I have something to look forward to, and I want to
I'm
thank
glad we
Bear
haven't missed it because I was about to say,
That's
why don't
right.
you shoot us a text and let us know you're going to be on there so we
That's
can
right.
listen to it.
That's right. So, folks, everybody's got something to look forward to. I got something to look forward to. I'm really thankful to Bear Wozniak for all he does.
Yeah, he loved my shirt I've got on today.
That's right. He would
Hawaiian
love that.
shirt.
Hawaiian shirt. Now, listen, before our guest Tom comes on, the co-founder, executive director of Positive Coaching, I promised the folks that you and I would talk a little bit more about the NHL playoffs. You and I are both big hockey fans, genuine hockey fans, and we're just going to take 30 seconds or so to make predictions. Now, the obvious one that you would like, Ed, is you'd like to see your Penguins win. They're a legitimate chance of winning. But outside of them, who would you predict?
Well, no, with that core group and Sid the Kid or Sid and the kids and Evgeny Malkin in that group, Chris Letang, the time is clicking. They need another cup. But if not, our Carolina Hurricanes.
Is that who you're picking?
Oh, yeah. In the East. My goodness, they have three wonderful goalies. Rod Brindamore, who was a player, is their coach. They have done wonderful things here. Carolina Catholic Radio, Carolina Hurricanes.
That's right. That's my pick. You and I did this independently. That's my pick as well. But mine is because even though they don't have the most wins in the NHL, they have the least amount of losses. And Ed, if you don't lose the game, that means you probably are going to win the game. They have the least amount of losses, so they've taken a lot of people to overtime, and they even have several ties in there, but they have the least amount of losses outright. Of course, they can't have ties anymore with the
whoever's our Caniac Catholic, we had to get him on the air. If you would like to talk about your Canes and your Catholic, or you don't have to be. call Dr. John Acquaviva.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, stay tuned. Toward the end of the show, we're going to do the quick Q&A with Dr. A, and we're going to do our PGA Golfer of the Week, of course. And I just want to remind everybody, the Bushy McBush NASCAR race was just a couple weeks ago. All right, listen, let's bring on our guest. I'm really excited to have him here. He is Tom VanBuskirk. He's the co-founder, executive director of Positive Coaching. Coach Tom, welcome to Faith in Sport, brother.
Thank you, John. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, this is great. In fact, Tom, I told you this story, and I'm going to tell the audience because I wanted to mention this earlier, and I didn't have a chance to. I forgot, unfortunately, what I was listening to, but it was a radio program, it was a TV show, and somebody mentioned your organization, and I said, positivecoaching.org, what? And I said, I got to get in touch with this guy. And I said to him, Ed, get this. I said, Tom, listen, it's not a prereq to be on this program, but it is a Catholic program. And he said, my wife, Marianne, and I are cradle Catholics. And I said, this will be all the better. So, Tom, welcome to the show. And you told me a story. I want you to share it with our audience. When and why did you start this organization, Positive Coaching?
Well, John, I was a high school coach at a Catholic high school here in Denver. I did girls basketball and soccer.
Yep.
And I had three daughters. My middle daughter had a game on Saturday at the elementary Catholic school that we had them in. And so my wife and I, of course, try to attend everyone we can. And I was sitting there, and being a coach, watching somebody else coach your kids is a experience that you really have to learn how to handle it.
Yeah.
I had to sit on my hands, and I was going to be a good boy. And my daughter's a gym rat, so of course she was a starter. These are 5th and 6th grade kids, and I knew the coach. The coach was a good guy. I really liked him. The problem was that toward the end of the game, they had about a 22-point lead, and I told my wife to look at the end of the bench. There were two girls that were crying because they had not been in the game yet. 2 minutes left in the game, ahead by double digits, 20-plus points, and they hadn't been in the game. And I said, we got to do something about that. I knew it wasn't a discipline problem, that they were sitting on the end of the bench or anything.
Yeah.
So I went to the head nun, sister, and I said, Sister, I don't want to get the guy in trouble, but that's just wrong. It's all about the playing time. And she said, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, I went through a program, and I got certified over at Champaign University of Illinois, and I think it's a pretty good program, but we can kind of tone it down for the grade school coaches and just give them some good standards to go by. She said, well, let's march on down to the Archdiocese and present it to them. So we did make a presentation to them, and they said, you bet, let's do it. So we ended up training almost all their elementary school coaches.
And Tom, when you say trained, just tell us a few things that you thought were most important to share with them. What do they need to know?
Well, what I really profess is that you as a coach are teaching life lessons.
Yeah.
You need to teach them how to win, how to lose, how to play hard, how to play within the rules, how to be fair, how to be compassionate, how to be healthy. So you're teaching them all those life lessons, which is going to go on to when they get married, when they're in relationships,
that's right,
their job, whatever aspects of their life, because that's what a coach did for me when I was in a Catholic elementary school, when I was running with the wrong crowd. He set me straight. So we talk about, we give them a toolkit that I don't want good coaches to burn out, so we give them ways how to burn out, not to burn out. We also talk some of the elements of how to teach and how to listen, observations. So we give them all those tools, and then, of course, we do the nutrition and the physical aspect of it.
Got it. Folks, you're listening to Faith in Sport here on Carolina Catholic Radio, co-production of Radio Maria. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. We're talking to Tom VanBuskirk, the co-founder and executive director of Positive Coaching. You can check out more about Tom and this organization at positivecoaching.org. So, Tom, let me pose this to you, and I've said this a couple different ways to folks in your position. What is your number one concern with coaches? And I'm going to frame it another way, mainly for our audience. But, Tom, if you could click your fingers and be in front of every single coach for 5 minutes in like a virtual gymnasium of some sort, and you had 5 minutes with them, what would your message be to them? Every coach, every youth coach on earth.
I would say that the best motivator that you can have for your athletes is fun. If you keep fun in the game, they will be motivated to train harder, play harder, and listen. That's the main thing I want to talk to them about. Of course, we want to talk about the abuses and how to avoid them and to make sure that you recognize them when they do come around. That's really what I'd say, that you have an audience that really, really wants to be there and teach them the life lessons.
And I think they get a bad rap for a lot of different reasons, but one of the things that I'm experiencing this week is the after season get together with all the parents and any family members that want to come in addition to the players. My son Luke, 9-year-old baseball player, tonight is his end of the year party, and one of the things I want to do before I leave there is go up directly to the coach who's hosting this party and then all the assistant coaches and thanking them. And I would say overall that it's a thankless job ultimately, isn't it, Tom?
It's tough. It's you don't get paid much, and if you do get paid, and the only thing that kept me doing it for 35 years was the intrinsic reward.
Yeah.
That I'd be in a grocery store and somebody say, "Hey, Coach, I'm married now, got 3 kids. I still love playing the basketball for you."
That's neat. In fact, one of the things, going back to that original story about the coach who did not play those 2 girls at the end of the bench, despite being up by greater than 20 points, was coaching is not only what you do, but it's what you fail to do, and that's probably part of what you bring to the conversations and presentations and so forth with positivecoaching.org, right?
Yeah, we do. I've made a lot of those mistakes. I'll tell the group, this is what I did, and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ones is a 24-hour rule.
Let's hear it.
Enforce it. And you also as a coach, the 24-hour rule, it works wonders.
And what is that rule? Tell us a little bit more about the 24-hour rule.
The 24-hour rule is that after the game, or even during the game, but mainly after the game, let's not talk to each other for 24 hours if we have something to say that's not going to be pleasant.
Yeah.
If you want to come over and give me coupons to get steak sandwiches and all that, sure, come on over. But, I'm probably mad, you're mad, you're going to say something wrong, I'm going to say something wrong, and we're going to regret it. So let's wait 24 hours and think it out and then talk.
I like it. Now, Tom, you didn't have a chance. You chimed in just before the break or right around the time of the break. And one of the things that Ed and I were talking about was the pressure that almost all youth athletes feel directly from their parents if they say something to them while the play or prior to the play is going on. So, for instance, prior to a batter coming up, the parents saying, "Come on, Billy, you can do it." Or before a free throw, "Come on, you can make these two." You probably would agree with the literature because, as you might or might not know, that there's a lot of literature on that. And the student, the athlete, I should say, feels intense pressure. Even though they want their parents there, they don't want them to say anything. Is that your experience as well, that the kids feel more pressure when the parents say something, even if it's positive?
It is. We had taken some teams to Europe for some tournaments, and we were in Roma, and these two buses pulled up, and kids are getting out, all in single file. The nuns are following them, and it's an orphanage.
Yeah.
And we both said to each other, that's who we wanted to coach, an orphanage. No, it's not going to happen, but the parents really can cause problems. We have a parenting clinic where we talk to the parents what to expect from a coach, how to make your athlete more motivated, how to support them.
Yeah.
I believe in student being first, athlete second. And parents really, they can be so wonderful and so great, or they can be very damaging.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, brother, I want to announce to our audience now, and I mentioned this to you because I knew you had a lot to say, and you have so much experience which to draw upon. But I promised you, and I'm going to promise my audience right now, is I want to bring you on, and hopefully you can bring your wife, Marianne, on as well. She's the co-founder of Positive Coaching, and that's one of the reasons I want to bring you back is so you guys can talk about what are the things that you've learned in particular that are helpful to parents. And how about we make that part of our part 2 conversation next month?
Absolutely. She's a marriage and family counselor, Catholic marriage and family counselor. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, yeah, it's going to be a great conversation. So, Tom, let me leave you with this, brother. And this is, as they say, the $1 million question. You have positivecoaching.org. You started this organization. There's all kinds of internet sites. There's all kinds of conferences and presentations and radio shows like this and so forth that really have tried to make youth sport a better experience. My question to you, overall, are youth sports better than when you started this organization decades ago? Is it worse, or is it the same but just maybe different? What do you think?
I believe that every 5 years everything changes in sport as far as coaching philosophy and what athletes can do and the equipment, etc. I would like to say that it's improved some. It hasn't necessarily gotten any worse.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of organizations out there now that are really concerned that they have a good representation. And so I'd say that's going really well. One aspect that bothers me some, because I have that situation with my daughters, my grandkids, is sometimes club sports can monopolize.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a lot of money for parents. And let's say you have 2 or 3 kids and only one of them is the athlete and you're traveling all around the country for them, and what happens to the other 2 or 3 kids?
Yeah, exactly.
That's one aspect I kind of have problems with. It's a money-driven situation.
No doubt.
But there are some really good clubs out there. There's no doubt about that.
No, there is, and they kind of hide behind the facade of we want to help your kid, get more exposure for college. We want to help your kid take that step toward a professional career and so forth. But ultimately, family life is really hurt. In fact, our current Pope said, "Listen, it's okay to play sports on Sunday, but it is not okay to have a sport on Sunday and make it the reason you miss Mass." And Mass in and of itself is important. We have that obligation. But ultimately what you're doing is you're pulling family time away. And you're right, Coach. That could crush a family, is not just putting your time and effort toward that one kid, but in a way putting all that love and money toward that one kid, and that could really bust up a family for sure. So, boy, we have a lot of...
That's what we're thinking. That's what we're thinking. We see it. We see it every day.
Absolutely. Listen, Tom, I want you and Marianne to come back on next month. In fact, in the next week or two, I'll get together with you, and we'll bring you on next month, and we'll continue this conversation. How's that?
I'd love to do that. Thank you, John.
Tom VanBuskirk, co-founder and executive director of Positive Coaching. Thank you for joining us, brother, and we're going to pray for your success of your continued mission.
Let's keep the faith.
Okay, buddy. Take care. There you go, folks. Tom VanBuskirk, the coach. He is the executive director of Positive Coaching. Has that guy been doing good work for a couple decades or what? Several decades.
You know what? I was looking at his blog, and he has here, he believes in residual aspects of sports and coaching, working and bonding as a team, experiencing victory, and more importantly, facing and moving through defeat, the overall positive feeling. And he said it's about having fun. And then I picked up on his 24-hour rule.
Yeah,
hey,
that's
for
great.
us husbands and wives, we ought to use that as well. Disagreement at home, wait 24 hours or at least 12 hours.
Even one would help marriages, right?
It sure would, because you think about responding versus reacting. He is wonderful. Yeah, I'd encourage him back.
Oh yeah, he in fact, I could easily have him on for parts 3 and 4, but for right now we're going to have him on for part 2 because this is a guy who has as much, if not more, experience than anybody doing this. He's trying to make the world of youth sport a better place for everybody involved, not just the kid, but the families. I thought that was an interesting point. What a great thing to look at with those traveling families, traveling sports families, is you think you're creating unity and taking that one son or daughter to all these gymnastics or dance or baseball or football competitions. But the fact is you could ultimately be busting up your family because you're dragging those other kids along and they don't really feel part of the family. They know deep in their hearts that all this travel, time, and money is put toward that one child.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Great insights.
Brother, we got a couple minutes to go. And let me mention again that Carolina Catholic Radio, this show, Faith in Sport, is supported by Carolina Crawl Space Pros. Did you know that insects are drawn to moisture? Moist wood is easier for insects like termites to bore through. Just like water, they go to the easiest path of resistance. Dry your home with Carolina Crawl Space Pros system and protect the health of your home. For website and contact information on Carolina Crawl Space Pros, go to my webpage at carolinacatholicradio.org. All right, listen, let's do this, Chris. We got a couple minutes left. Before we do the famous Pro Golfer of the Week, we have time for the quick Q&A with Dr. A. Shoot it at me, brother. What's the question?
And it's a question you know all about, having your own nationally syndicated sports radio show. You're already there. And the question is, when is a $2 million salary not enough? Is it just not enough for you now, John?
It's not. It's enough for me, but it's not enough for some people. And you're going to have interest in this, I think. And I think, if nothing else, you're going to find this maybe even fascinating. And it goes back to our great sport of the National Hockey League. You know that after a 10-year contract, the NHL busted away from SNBC and then NBC, right? Every week there was the game during the season and so forth. And you know who picked them up for the next few years?
ESPN.
And TNT.
TNT,
right?
yeah.
And so who they want for their in-studio analyst is Wayne Gretzky. And they offered him $2 million. And through his lawyer, apparently, this isn't official, but more than one source stated that he's requesting $5 million a year to sit in that chair and analyze hockey.
Now, is that Wayne doing that? Is that his lawyers? I mean, come on.
Brother, you know as well as I do, if you are my agent, literally, Ed, if you're my agent and I get word that you are holding out for $5 million and I'm willing to do this for $1 or $2 million, I'm going to go to you and go, Ed, you have a choice, brother. You can do what I want you to do, or you can not have a job the next day.
Or I get another agent, right.
So you know the answer to that question. If Wayne Gretzky's not coming forward and saying anything, holy smokes, $2 million is not enough to sit in a chair and analyze hockey? My goodness. And it really does show. It really does show, brother, the strength and the amount of ego that some people have in and out of sport, that he's thinking, boy, I am not even going to think about sitting in that seat unless you give me $5 million.
I would love for a day just to be in his chair and think like he thinks, to quite understand that logic.
It is really amazing.
But I want to hear Charles Barkley talk hockey.
I will listen to Charles Barkley talk about
him and his buddy Rick Tocchet. I think Rick will do it for less. He got whacked as the Arizona Coyotes head coach. So
no, I know.
He may want to get into that gig.
No, I think everybody agrees. Like Charles Barkley, he has all the money that he would ever need for sure. But I really mean this, that there's got to be perhaps only one thing better than playing the sport, and that is talking and analyzing people that are actually playing the sport. For this reason, you can't make a mistake. The pressure cannot be there.
You're like a weather person.
I know.
A meteorologist.
I know
it's going to rain in an hour. It's not going to rain in an hour. Yeah, I think it is.
I know. You have your job.
The Detroit Red Wings are going to win the Stanley Cup. No, they're not. They're not even in the playoffs.
Ed, that's a great analogy for this reason. You can have your job the next day as a meteorologist, whether it rains today or not. You could be off by 10 degrees on the weather.
As long as you're entertaining and you're good looking.
Absolutely.
Well, you don't have to be good looking, just as long as you're entertaining. Tell a few jokes.
Brother, I have a perfect face for radio. I'm not sitting behind a microphone for nothing here.
Yeah, it's like John saying the Detroit Tigers are going to win the World Series. That's not going to happen.
Have you ever seen a picture of Dr. John Acquaviva? He has a dome that just goes, go to the website. How do you get to the website? You can see his face, Carolina Catholic Radio.org,
and just go to Faith and Sport, and there's his smiling face.
There's the good doctor.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. And
might
Chris,
mistake him for Mr. Clean, but that's actually Dr. John Acquaviva.
I want to ask both of you guys, did you know that it was just earlier this month the Bushy McBush NASCAR race took place? Listen, our PGA golfer of the week, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Christian Bezuidenhout. Yeah, there you go. Christian Bezuidenhout, once again, is the PGA golfer of the week. And actually, I have no idea whether he participated in this past weekend's Byron Nelson Classic.
The AT&T, yeah.
If Chris was worth anything as a producer, right now he'd go to his little computer and find out what the score was for Christian Bezuidenhout. By the way, our guest today was originally going to be David Cook, and Tom VanBuskirk, the guy who stepped in, was originally supposed to be in a couple weeks, but David Cook is a caddy of a PGA golfer.
Really?
Yeah, and I said, brother, can you be on Monday? And he said, absolutely. And then he texted me on Saturday night, and he goes, I'm traveling for the next tournament. I cannot do it on Monday. And I can't wait to have a conversation with him, because one of the things I want to ask him is this: what does the golfer expect out of you? Like, everybody thinks, what do people think initially? If you're the caddy, what's your job?
I should be just as smart, if not smarter, than that person, so I can coach him.
You're thinking way too much. You know too much about golf.
My back is in good shape. I can carry the clubs.
That's right. You're carrying the clubs, brother, and you are handing him a club. If he says, I want my 3-wood, you give him his 3-wood.
I can be entertaining and tell him a few jokes to keep him light. You're right. You got to be a jokester like you. You'd be a great caddy.
You think I would, but I don't really.
I don't know about your back, though.
Yeah, no, my back's good. I could carry.
You would need sunscreen on that dome.
There's no question. That's why God invented hats, brother. That's why God invented hats.
And God made those hats.
No doubt about it. But listen, he's promised to join us again in a couple weeks. David Cook, and I can't wait to have a conversation with him, because I think he's gonna have really good stuff to say. He's a former professional golfer himself that didn't pan out. Now he is a caddy for a PGA golfer. And by the way, his golfer shot 2 under par at the Byron Nelson Classic and didn't make the cut.
I know. Well, yeah.
Because you saw those scores, right?
Yeah,
25
I saw the cut
under.
line was crazy.
Holy moly. All right, folks, as always, we end with this great quote from John Paul II. Give thanks to our God for the gift of sport, in which the human person exercises his body, intellect, and will, recognizing these abilities as so many gifts of his creator. Again, that comes from John Paul II, a former athlete himself.
And now a saint.
In fact, it would be a bad idea to make him the patron saint of sport. No, I mean that.
Why not?
I know. We'd have to petition people that we don't know, right?
There's a prayer right there.
Ed, with all your Frito-Lay, contacts, maybe one of them knows the Pope, and we can do the fast track to, co-patron saint
do a Lay's
of sport.
Tostitos commercial.
There you go, folks. Before we go, I want to give a special thank you to Ed Billick. Thank you, buddy.
John, I tell you, Chris, thanks for having me every month. This is a lot of fun. It's
always
enjoyable,
look forward to,
and it's good to talk God's word in sport.
It is, brother. I also want to thank Tom VanBuskirk for joining me on the show today. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. Please join us next time here at Carolina Catholic Radio and Radio Maria for more faith and sport. And the patron saint of sport, St. Sebastian, pray for us.
And St. John Paul.
Here you go.
You've been listening to Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, 1270 AM Charlotte, Also, the Radio Maria Network. We want to thank you for tuning in to Faith and Sport today. And if you want to tune in for more Faith and Sport, make sure to check out CarolinaCatholicRadio.org for all of our encore presentation times, when you can catch an encore presentation of today's show all throughout the week on Carolina Catholic Radio. Also, check out Faith and Sport on demand at CarolinaCatholicRadio.org or on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. And make sure while you're there to hit the donate button for Carolina Catholic Radio.